So this is mirror writing and the Da Vinci Code 2. Now where does the 2 come from? Well, I have actually got another experiment which I call mirror writing the Da Vinci Code, which you may want to look at as well, but this is the 2 version. What you're going to need is some sheets of paper. I'm just going to use one here and I've already folded some up. A pen to write with. I'm going to use a felt tip pen, and I probably recommend for this a washable pen. Actually, I've got a bit on my hand already, a washable pen. What I want you to do first is fold a piece of paper up so it looks something like that. Doesn't have to be exactly like this, but this is what I'm going to suggest you do, okay? So just fold it up, so it's quite easy to do. Oops. And one more time. Now what I want you to do, and I've just got a couple more there that I may use. First thing I want you to do is I want you to write your name on here, okay, so that it looks the right way round if you were to hold it in a mirror. So in other words, when you've written it, however way you think it needs to be, use your imagination, think, how do I need to write this in mirror writing so that when I hold it up into a mirror, if you're the mirror in front of me, when I hold it up into the mirror, it looks the right way round in the mirror so I can read my name in the mirror in front of me. That's the first thing I want you to do, okay? Then I want you to get another piece, and while you're standing in front of your mirror, looking at your reflection, I want you to make yourself even look more silly and hold it up here like that, and with the same pen, do the same thing again, but this time by holding the paper against your head, write your name on the paper in the same lettering so that you can read it in the mirror as you're writing it, and when you're finished you can read it in the mirror, okay? So just to recap, write it in front of you on a table in the way you think it needs to be so that when you are holding it up in a mirror you'll be able to read it okay in the mirror. And then again, using another piece of paper, hold it against your head and use the pen and write directly onto it now as you're looking in the mirror, and write it again so it looks the right way in the mirror once you've completed it. Okay, off you go. So, I don't know how you got on, but I'm going to show you how I got on. First part I can show you here right now. So, how do I write my name so it looks the right way round in the mirror? Well, it's pretty obvious. I have to write it in mirror writing here so that when I'm holding it in the mirror it looks the right way round. Now when I think about that, I think it's probably going to be, let's have a think. This is how I'm going to do it. Now I reckon that'll probably look okay in the mirror because I haven't tested it yet. So we do need a mirror. So this is what happened when we found one. So here we are with the mirror writing Da Vinci Code 2 in the bathroom. Remember, you need a mirror you can do this up against. You may remember that's the one we did in the studio where I wanted to write my name in such a way that we could read it in the mirror, and I didn't have a mirror with me, I just wrote it in front of you, didn't I? Let's see if we can read my name the proper way around in the mirror. Perfect, looks good enough to me, so I'll leave that one there. Now, the next challenge, if you remember, was to get another piece of paper and your pen, and this time write your name while you're looking in the mirror, holding it against your head. Do you remember that? So let's see how we get on with that one. So, here we go. Okay, well, the writing did seem a bit more wobbly, but I've got to be honest, I found it much easier to do that than I did that in the studio. Did you find it the same? And if you did, what's going on? So, what was going on? Remember, that's the one I did first in front of you on the table. I said, write down your name, just looking at the paper so that you can read it in the mirror. Now to do this, I had to concentrate. I had to imagine and in my imagination see a mirror and imagine what the letters would need to look like on paper so that when I hold it in a mirror, they would look the right way round. Now, of course, I didn't find it too hard, but I did have to concentrate a bit, and it took a bit of time to do it as I was concentrating what it needed to look like before I would hold it in the mirror, okay? So I had to sort of imagine in mirror writing, okay? I didn't find it particularly hard, and you probably didn't find it so hard either, but nevertheless, we had to concentrate. With this one, of course, it does look a bit wobbly compared to this. I did mention that already. That was mostly, of course, because I was doing it against my head in the mirror. Do you remember? I was holding the pen, and it's a bit fiddly doing it like this, as I'm sure you agree. You don't often write on paper when it's up at your head, do you? So that was one of the reasons why it was a bit wobbly. But as I said to camera, when I was looking in the mirror, I actually found it easier to do. Now, why is that? Well, think about it. When I'm looking in the mirror, and you would have probably noticed this, well, I know it was a bit fiddly holding it, but when you were moving your hand up, when you're actually moving your hand up, it went up in the mirror, in the reflection. And when I started writing the letters, everything I could feel happening with my hand, I could see happening in the mirror. Okay, so in other words, it looked like it was doing what I could feel with my hands. And that was why it was so easy. So when I did it like that, what I was feeling, the motion I was feeling with my hand, I could see happening in the mirror. And that is why it was actually easier to do, because I wasn't having to concentrate so hard. I just looked and I wrote it. And I didn't have to concentrate anywhere near as hard, because actually you could see what was happening as I was doing it. And what I could see was matching what I could feel. And that was why it was easier. Why did I call this mirror writing Da Vinci Code 2? Well, there was a Da Vinci Code 1 version of this experiment you may be interested to see as well. But we're on the Da Vinci Code 2 right now. But what's the Da Vinci Code got to do with it? Well, it turns out that Leonardo da Vinci did lots of his writing in his books, in his journals, like his diaries. He wrote in mirror writing. So you could only read it properly if you held it up into a mirror. And we often call it the Da Vinci Code. Sometimes it's called Da Vinci Codex. So lots of his notes he wrote in mirror writing. Now, nobody's quite sure why he did this, to be honest. Some people think maybe he did it as a sort of a simple code, so that people, if they quickly looked at his diaries, if he happened to leave one out somewhere, they had a quick look when he wasn't looking, and they wouldn't be able to read it easily because it's in mirror writing. And you might think, yeah, but then they probably recognise it as mirror writing. Well, you've got to remember, when he was around, in Leonardo's time, mirrors, really good clear mirrors that you'd need to read writing that he'd written in his book, were really, really expensive. It was only rich people that had them. So, first of all, mirrors weren't very common. But even if they were, how many of us carry mirrors around with us? And remember, he would have done it in joined up writing, so it would have been a bit harder to see anyway. Somebody also suggested that he wrote it in mirror writing because he was left-handed, Leonardo. And I don't know if any of you are left-handed, but left-handed people, when they write, if they're writing with a pen where the ink takes a bit of time to dry, like the pens he used, like dip pens and stuff, the ink comes out really wet and takes a minute or two to dry properly. As you're writing, if we pretend I was writing that with a dip pen, as I'm writing, my hand starts going over the bit I've already written. And my hand can smudge it, and people who are left-handed have to be careful. Some actually hook their hand around like that to help get around it. So some people think, well, maybe Leonardo taught himself to write in mirror writing, because then he could write from that way, and he wouldn't be smudging the ink as he wrote. But maybe he was just a bit of a weirdo, and he liked writing in mirror writing. Who knows? So what other things could you try to see what difference it might make? Well, of course, I've written my name in capital letters, what we call uppercase letters. How about doing the whole thing again, repeating the whole experiment, and this time doing it in lowercase letters, so, you know, little letters, and seeing if it's any easier or more difficult to do than with capitals. So that's obviously one way you could do it. What about the size of the writing? I did actually quite big letters here as well, didn't I? And that will have an effect. The question is what effect, and would you notice it? So maybe try and do it in normal size writing. However you normally write, you know, much smaller than that, I suspect. So try it in normal size writing and see what the effect might be. What about different sorts of mirrors? Because the mirror we used was a flat mirror that you often get as a big mirror, say, on a bathroom like we had. But you can get little mirrors, like, for example, we have sometimes makeup mirrors or shaving mirrors that I would use, say. Sometimes they're bending in at the middle or bowing out to make your face look as if it's further away or nearer. And sometimes they sort of totally distort your face as well. They don't normally use those when we do makeup and stuff. So the mirrors we use were either bending in, we call them concave, or bending out, and we call them convexed. and those mirrors make your face look either magnified or pushed further back. I wonder if that'll make any difference to this experiment. What about not writing? Maybe drawing a little picture, a simple picture. First again, draw it in front of you. Remember, you've got to draw it in the way you want to see it in the mirror. So in other words, your little drawing, whatever it's of, you want to think, right, this is what I want to draw, this is what I want it to look like in the mirror. So I'll draw it here, so when I hold it, it looks the proper way in the mirror, and then actually see if you can draw it in the mirror itself. I'll leave you to figure a few more things you could try.